We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Empire's Foundation. Dominic Russo built his restaurant empire from nothing but scar tissue and spite. At 38, he owned 7 high-end establishments across Boston, each more exclusive than the last. His flagship, Vettura, stood as a monument to his tenacity, a converted 19th-century carriage house transformed into the city's most sought-after reservation. Most assumed Dominic was born into wealth. They never saw the 16-year-old who slept in restaurant kitchens after his alcoholic father kicked him out. They never witnessed him working 80-hour weeks, scrubbing dishes, learning every station on the line, saving every penny. By 25, he had opened his first small bistro. By 30, he had 3 restaurants. Now he had more money than he could spend in 3 lifetimes. This evening, Dominic stood in Vettura's kitchen during the dinner rush, watching his staff execute with military precision. He'd built a reputation for being exacting but fair. His employees feared disappointing him more than they feared his anger. "The Sullivan party is asking for you," said Bianca, his head server, breaking his reverie. Dominic nodded. The Sullivans were regulars, Boston old money who appreciated his iron grip on quality. He straightened his tailored charcoal suit and headed for the dining room. As he wove through the tables, he spotted his wife of 7 years, Alexa, seated in the corner with her back to him. Her honey blonde hair cascaded down her back. She hadn't told him she was coming in tonight. Approaching to surprise her, Dominic froze when he saw who she was with. Trevor Montgomery, her supposed colleague from the architectural firm. Trevor's hand covered Alexa's on the table, their fingers intertwined intimately. Dominic's gut twisted as the pieces fell into place. The late nights working, the weekend conferences, the gradual emotional withdrawal. He pivoted sharply and returned to the kitchen, his face a mask of composure even as something inside him hardened into cold, implacable stone. Later that night, Alexa returned home smelling of Trevor's distinctive cologne. "Busy day?" Dominic asked from the darkness of their living room, causing her to start. "God, Dom, you scared me," she laughed nervously. "Yes, we had client meetings all afternoon, and then the team grabbed dinner." Dominic simply nodded, filing away the lie. "You should have come to Vettura. I would have taken care of you." Alexa's smile faltered. "Next time," she promised, heading upstairs. Dominic didn't follow. Instead, he poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon and began planning the methodical dismantling of everything Alexa held dear. Chapter 2. Gathering Evidence. For the next month, Dominic became a ghost in his own life. He hired Ryder Blackwell, a former military intelligence officer turned private investigator, to document Alexa's affair. Meanwhile, he maintained the perfect facade of the devoted husband. 7 years, Dominic said to Ryder as they met in an anonymous coffee shop downtown, far from any of his restaurants. 7 years, and she's been seeing him for at least 9 months. Ryder slid a manila envelope across the table. "It's all here. Times, dates, locations, hotel receipts, text messages I recovered. It's comprehensive." The evidence was damning. Alexa and Trevor had been meeting 3 times a week at a boutique hotel downtown. They'd taken weekend trips together while Dominic was opening his Miami location. They'd exchanged thousands of explicit texts. Most devastating was the discovery that they had laughed about him. In one recovered text, Alexa had written, "Poor Dom has no idea. He's too busy with his precious restaurants to notice what's happening under his nose. It's almost too easy." That night, Dominic sat in his home office reviewing financial records. During their marriage, he had built 4 restaurants. Alexa had contributed nothing financially. Yet Massachusetts was an equitable distribution state. She could claim half of everything, unless he planned carefully. The next morning, Dominic called Milo Petrov, his attorney. "I need to protect my business interests," he explained. Milo, a shark in human form, nodded. "We'll need to move quickly and quietly. Are you certain about this path?" "Completely," Dominic replied. Over the next several weeks, Dominic restructured his business holdings. He created a complex web of LLCs and transferred ownership percentages to trusted associates with contractual buyback provisions. On paper, his net worth appeared to decrease dramatically. In reality, he was simply securing his assets. Meanwhile, Alexa grew bolder in her deception. One evening, she announced she needed to fly to Chicago for a project presentation. "How long will you be gone?" Dominic asked, already knowing she and Trevor had booked a luxury suite in New York, not Chicago. "Just 2 nights," she said, kissing his cheek. "I'll call when I land." After she left, Dominic opened his safe and removed the flash drive containing all of Ryder's evidence. It was time. Chapter 3. The Confrontation. Alexa returned from her Chicago trip, looking relaxed and refreshed. She swept into their Beacon Hill brownstone, carrying shopping bags from high-end New York boutiques. A careless mistake. "Welcome home," Dominic said, seated at the kitchen island. "How was Chicago?" "Exhausting but successful," she replied, setting down her bags. "The client loved our presentation." Dominic nodded toward the shopping bags. "I wasn't aware Chicago had a Bergdorf Goodman." Alexa froze, her eyes darting to the telltale bags. "I had a layover in New York." "Interesting," Dominic said, his voice eerily calm. "Especially since you and Trevor Montgomery spent the entire time at the plaza." "Room 1122. On my credit card." The blood drained from Alexa's face. "Dom, I can explain." "Sit down," he commanded, sliding a folder across the counter. "Every meeting, every hotel, every lie, it's all documented." Alexa's hands trembled as she opened the folder. Her eyes widened at the photographs of her and Trevor entering hotels, sitting close in restaurants, kissing in his car. "You had me followed?" she whispered. "You made a fool of me," Dominic replied. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" "It just happened," she began, tears welling. "Trevor and I—" "Spare me." Dominic cut her off. "I'm not interested in your justifications. I want a divorce." "Fine," she snapped, her demeanor shifting from apologetic to calculating. "I'll take half of everything. Your precious restaurants." Dominic laughed, a cold sound devoid of humor. "You've misunderstood your position. You'll sign these papers," he slid another document toward her, "which give you this house and a one-time settlement of $2 million. In exchange, you waive all claims to my business interests." "That's ridiculous." Alexa spluttered. "I'm entitled to half." "Before you decide, you should know that I've already provided copies of this evidence to your parents, your firm's partners, and our entire social circle." Dominic bluffed, knowing he hadn't actually done so yet. "Sign now, and this stays relatively private. Refuse, and I'll ensure everyone knows exactly who you are." Alexa's face contorted with rage. "You bastard. You cold, calculating bastard." "I learned from the best," he replied, sliding a pen toward her. "Your signature, please." 2 hours and numerous threats later, Alexa signed the papers, her hands shaking with fury. "I hope you and Trevor will be very happy together," Dominic said as he gathered the documents. "Though I should mention, he's sleeping with his assistant Kendra, too. It's all in the report." As he left their former bedroom, Alexa hurled a crystal vase at the wall, shattering it. Dominic didn't flinch. He simply closed the door and walked away, already focused on the next phase of his plan. The divorce was finalized with unexpected speed, thanks to Milo's connections and Alexa's desire to avoid public scandal. She moved in with Trevor, taking the settlement money and the house, which Dominic had never cared about anyway. Meanwhile, Dominic purchased a penthouse overlooking Boston Harbor and threw himself into expanding his restaurant empire. To the outside world, he appeared to be moving on with dignity. In reality, he was just getting started. Chapter 4. New Beginnings. 6 months after the divorce, Dominic's youngest sister Sophia announced her engagement to Perry Windsor, scion of a prestigious Boston family. Sophia, 12 years Dominic's junior, had always been his weakness, the only person who truly knew the depths of what he'd endured in childhood. "I want to have the engagement party at Vettura," Sophia told him over lunch at his newest restaurant. "It's the most beautiful space in the city." "Of course," Dominic agreed, squeezing her hand. "Whatever you want. I'll handle everything." "There's something else," Sophia hesitated. Perry's family knows Alexa's family. The Palmers and the Windsors have summered together in the Hamptons for generations. Dominic's jaw tightened, and Perry's mother has already invited them to the engagement party. Alexa, Trevor, her parents, all of them. For a moment, Dominic said nothing. Then he smiled. It's fine, sophomore ancient history. Are you sure? Because I can tell them. I insist, Dominic interrupted. This is your celebration. I won't let my divorce overshadow it. That evening, Dominic called Vincent Torres, his oldest friend and business partner. Sophie is having her engagement party at Vettura, he said. Alexa and her whole circus will be there. Vincent whistled. That's going to be awkward. Want me to bar them at the door? No, Dominic replied, a rare smile playing at his lips. In fact, I want them to have the best table in the house. You've got that tone, Vincent observed. What are you planning? Justice, Dominic said simply. Long overdue justice. The night of the engagement party arrived, and Vettura had been transformed. Sophia had chosen a 1920s theme, and the restaurant gleamed with Art Deco touches, champagne fountains, and servers in period-appropriate attire. Dominic greeted guests at the door alongside Sophia and Perry, the consummate host in a custom tuxedo. When Alexa arrived with Trevor, there was a momentary hush in the crowd. She looked stunning in a silver-beaded gown, her arm possessively linked through Trevor's. Behind them came Gerald and Martha Palmer, Alexa's parents, who had always treated Dominic with thinly veiled disdain despite his success. Dominic, Alexa nodded coolly, her eyes challenging. Alexa, Trevor, he replied with polite detachment. How nice of you to come. Vincent will show you to your table. As they moved past, Gerald Palmer muttered audibly. Still playing restaurateur, I see. When are you going to get a real career, boy? Dominic's smile never faltered, but something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Vincent escorted the Palmer Montgomery party to table 1, the best in the house, positioned in a private alcove with perfect acoustics. What they didn't know was that Dominic could hear every word spoken at that table from a service panel behind it. As the evening progressed, Dominic divided his time between hosting duties and listening to the Palmers and Montgomerys through the hidden panel. Their conversation grew increasingly vicious as they consumed Dominic's expensive champagne. I still can't believe Sophia invited him to her engagement, Martha Palmer sniffed. He's practically the help. Well, he's her brother, Alexa replied, though I'm surprised he could afford all this on a glorified cook's salary. Trevor laughed. He probably mortgaged everything for this show. You know how desperate he is to appear successful. Thank God you got out when you did, Gerald added. The man has no breeding, no education. Just a chain of overpriced restaurants catering to nouveau riche poseurs. Their laughter cut through the panel, igniting something primal in Dominic's chest. He emerged and approached their table, champagne bottle in hand. More champagne, he offered with a razor-thin smile. Your servers are slacking, Gerald complained. We've been waiting for the main course for 20 minutes. My apologies, Dominic said smoothly. I'll check on that immediately. He returned to the kitchen, where the Palmer Montgomery party's prime rib roast sat perfectly prepared, waiting to be served. Hold their food, he instructed the kitchen staff. Indefinitely. The head chef looked confused. But it's ready now. I said hold it, Dominic repeated, and cancel any further food orders from table 1. Serve them no alcohol beyond what they already have. Over the next 2 hours, the Palmer Montgomery table became increasingly agitated as they watched every other table receive elaborate courses while their own remained empty. Their complaints to servers were met with apologetic confusion. I'll check on that right away, sir, followed by no results. Finally, Gerald stormed into the kitchen, face flushed with anger and alcohol. What the hell kind of establishment are you running? He demanded. We haven't been served dinner while everyone else is on dessert. Dominic stepped forward. Mr. Palmer, is there a problem? You're damn right there's a problem. Your incompetent staff has ignored our table all night. On my orders, Dominic replied calmly. Gerald blinked, processing this. What? I instructed my staff not to serve you, your wife, your daughter, or her lover. How dare you? Gerald spluttered. Do you know who I am? Perfectly, Dominic stepped closer. You're the man who just called me the help in my own restaurant. You're the man who called my establishments overpriced while drinking my $900 champagne. Most importantly, you're the man who raised a daughter who thought it appropriate to cheat on her husband and then laugh about it behind his back. Gerald's face paled. Now see here. No, you see, Dominic cut him off. Vettura isn't just where I work. I own it, along with 6 other restaurants across Boston. This glorified cook with no breeding is worth more than your entire family combined. He gestured toward the door. Now get out, all of you, and be sure to tell your 50 friends at the table why they won't be eating tonight. As Gerald stood, frozen in shock, Dominic leaned in closer. One more thing. Alexa didn't get half my fortune in the divorce because there was nothing to get. I made sure of it. The settlement she accepted? Pocket change. The kitchen staff watched in stunned silence as Gerald retreated, finally understanding the situation. Minutes later, the entire Palmer Montgomery party was gathering their coats, their faces burning with humiliation as they explained to their guests why they were all leaving a catered event hungry. Dominic watched them go from the doorway, his expression impassive. Only Vincent recognized the cold satisfaction in his friend's eyes. Was it worth it? Vincent asked quietly. Dominic took a sip of champagne. That was just the appetizer. Chapter 5, Count Moves. The fallout from the engagement party was immediate and severe. Alexa's parents faced social ostracism for the first time in their privileged lives. The story of their humiliation spread through Boston's elite circles with the speed of wildfire, each retelling more dramatic than the last. Trevor Montgomery, whose architectural firm depended heavily on social connections, found himself mysteriously dropped from consideration for 3 major projects. Alexa, now working independently as an interior designer, watched her client list dwindle as doors that had once been open to her suddenly closed. 2 weeks after the engagement party, Dominic received a hand-delivered letter from Alexa's attorney demanding a renegotiation of their divorce settlement, claiming he had concealed assets. He forwarded it to Milo without reading beyond the first paragraph. That evening, Trevor confronted Dominic outside Vettura as he was leaving for the night. You've gone too far, Trevor said, stepping from the shadows of the parking garage. You're actively sabotaging our livelihoods. Dominic regarded him coolly. I haven't done anything except tell the truth about who you are. Bullshit, Trevor spat. 3 major clients have backed out of deals with my firm this month. Coincidence? Perhaps they simply heard about your ethics, Dominic suggested. Or lack thereof. This ends now. Trevor stepped closer, his finger jabbing toward Dominic's chest. I swear to God, You'll what? Dominic interrupted, not backing away. Hit me? Please try. The security cameras covering this conversation would make the assault charges particularly easy to prove. Trevor faltered, suddenly aware of the blinking red lights of surveillance cameras. This isn't over, he warned. On that, we agree, Dominic replied. The next morning, Dominic met with his executive team to discuss the opening of his newest venture, an exclusive members-only supper club called Sanctum, located in a historic bank building downtown. The concept was revolutionary for Boston, a dining experience so selective that money alone couldn't buy membership. We've received over 200 applications for founding memberships, his marketing director reported, including one from Trevor Montgomery. Dominic smiled. Put that one in the rejection pile. What Trevor and Alexa didn't know was that Sanctum was far more than just another restaurant. It was the centerpiece of Dominic's long-term strategy, a gathering place for Boston's true power brokers. Politicians, developers, old money families, new tech entrepreneurs, all would break bread in a space where Dominic controlled every aspect of the experience. Meanwhile, Alexa and Trevor were struggling. Trevor's firm had lost nearly 40% of its business. Alexa's design contracts had dried up. Most painfully, they had been disinvited from the social events that had once been the center of their lives. In desperation, they turned to the only person they thought could help. Perry Windsor, Sophia's fiancé. I'm sorry, Perry told them over coffee in neutral location. I can't intervene with Dominic. He's my future brother-in-law. He's destroying us, Alexa insisted. using his connections to blackball us professionally. Perry looked uncomfortable. I haven't seen any evidence of that. From what I've heard, people are simply choosing not to work with you because of how you behaved. This is ridiculous. Trevor exploded. We're being punished for a personal matter that should have stayed private. You made it public at the engagement party, Perry pointed out. My parents were there. They heard what your family said about Dominic. As they left the meeting, Trevor turned to Alexa. This isn't working. We need to hit him where it hurts. Ow, Alexa asked. He doesn't seem to care about anything except his restaurants and Sophia. Trevor's eyes narrowed. Exactly. The next day, Trevor contacted Andrew Radcliffe, the city's most notorious restaurant critic, known for reviews that could make or break establishments. What Trevor didn't know was that Andrew and Dominic had a long-standing mutual respect. When Andrew received Trevor's offer of exclusive information about health violations at Dominic's restaurants, he immediately forwarded the email to Dominic. Simultaneously, Alexa reached out to Sophia, inviting her to lunch under the pretense of maintaining their friendship despite the divorce. I'm concerned about Dominic, Alexa told Sophia as they picked at salads. The divorce has changed him. The man I see now, so vindictive, so cruel. That's not the Dom I knew. Sophia regarded her coolly. The Dom you knew was the man you betrayed and mocked behind his back. Maybe this is who he becomes when someone he trusted destroys that trust. He's using his influence to ruin us professionally, Alexa pressed. Surely you don't condone that. What I don't condone is you try to manipulate me against my brother, Sophia replied, placing her napkin on the table and standing. Don't contact me again, Alexa. We're not friends. We never were. That evening, Sophia called Dominic. They're targeting you, she warned. Both of them. Try to turn people against you. Let them try, Dominic replied, unconcerned. Dom, I'm worried. Trevor seems desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. Dominic thought of the security measures he'd implemented at all his restaurants after the divorce. Cameras, security personnel, upgraded computer systems with enhanced encryption. I'm prepared, he assured her. But thank you for the warning. What he didn't tell Sophia was that he had anticipated this escalation. In fact, he had counted on it. Chapter 6, Crossing Lines. 3 months after the engagement party incident, Dominic's new restaurant Sanctum opened to extraordinary acclaim. The converted bank building retained its grand marble columns and soaring ceilings, but now featured intimate dining areas, a state-of-the-art kitchen, and a private vault room for the most exclusive gatherings. Membership was capped at $200, with an initiation fee of $50,000 and annual dues of $25,000. The waiting list stretched to over 1,000 names. Trevor Montgomery's application had been rejected with a form letter. On opening night, Boston's elite gathered to celebrate. The mayor gave a short speech. The governor made an appearance. Old money mingled with new tech wealth. Notable absent were the Palmers and Montgomerys, their social currency now worthless in the circles that mattered most. As Dominic moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations, he spotted Vincent urgently gesturing from near the kitchen. He excused himself from a conversation with the police commissioner and made his way over. There's been a break-in at Vettura, Vincent said quietly. The alarm company just called. Dominic's expression darkened. Damage. They're assessing now. The intruder disabled some of the cameras, but not all of them. The police are reviewing the footage. I'll head over, Dominic decided, already removing his tuxedo jacket. No, Vincent insisted. Stay here. This is your night. I'll handle it and keep you updated. Reluctantly, Dominic agreed. He returned to his guests, his smile firmly in place despite the uneased churning in his gut. 2 hours later, as the party was winding down, Vincent returned. We need to talk privately, he murmured. In the vault room, Vincent pulled out his phone and queued up security footage. The cameras caught this before being disabled. The grainy video showed a hooded figure entering through Vettura's back door using an employee access code. The figure moved with purpose toward the office, clearly familiar with the layout. They took financial records, copied computer files, and left a mess, Vincent reported. But here's the interesting part. The access code used belongs to Bianca. Bianca Moretti had been Dominic's head server for 5 years. She had access to the restaurant when it was closed, but no reason to break in or steal records. Have you spoken to her? Dominic asked. She's not answering her phone. But here's where it gets interesting. Vincent swiped to another video. This is from the camera across the street, pointed at the parking lot. The footage showed the same hooded figure emerging from Vettura and getting into a car. As the car pulled away, the license plate was clearly visible. That's Trevor's car, Dominic said flatly. Vincent nodded. It gets worse. I checked Bianca's social media. She's been seeing Trevor for at least a month. Dominic's jaw tightened. So he seduced my employee to gain access to my business records. It appears so. Dominic was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was frighteningly calm. Call Ryder. I want everything on Bianca. Financial records, phone logs, emails. Everything. And Trevor. Oh, I already know everything I need to about Trevor. Dominic's smile was lethal. Now we move to the next phase. The following morning, Dominic called an emergency meeting with his management team. He informed them of the break-in, but instructed them not to contact the police. Why not? His CFO asked, confused. This is clearly corporate espionage. Because we're going to handle this ourselves, Dominic replied. Over the next week, Dominic's team discovered that Trevor had been systematically targeting his former employees, offering money for internal information. Bianca had been the only one to take the bait, but she provided access to financial information that Trevor hoped to use in a smear campaign. Meanwhile, Alexa had been spreading rumors among their former social circle that Dominic's restaurants were failing financially, a desperate attempt to damage his reputation. 10 days after the break-in, Dominic invited Boston's most influential food bloggers and critics to a private dinner at Sanctum. What he served them wasn't just extraordinary food, but information, detailed documentation of Trevor and Alexa's campaign against him, including the security footage of the break-in. I'm sharing this with you not for publication, he told them, but so you understand the context if you hear rumors about my businesses. I have nothing to hide. The strategy worked brilliantly. When Trevor attempted to plant stories about Dominic's restaurants being in financial trouble, not a single publication would touch them. Instead, several ran features on Sanctum's unprecedented success. But Dominic wasn't finished. He discovered through Ryder's investigation that Trevor's firm was overextended on a major development project. The Montgomery Design Group had bid too low to secure the contract for a luxury condominium complex, and now they were hemorrhaging money trying to complete it. One evening, Dominic invited Lawrence Harrington, the developer behind the project, to dinner at Sanctum. I understand you're working with Montgomery Design, Dominic mentioned casually. Lawrence grimaced. Unfortunately, they're over budget and behind schedule. I'm considering terminating the contract. That would be costly for you, Dominic observed. Less costly than letting them continue to mismanage the project, Lawrence replied. Dominic nodded thoughtfully. What if I could connect you with a more reliable firm? One that could take over immediately and honor the original budget. Lawrence raised an eyebrow. I'd be very interested. The next day, Dominic contacted his old friend Alexander Bennett, whose architectural firm had designed 3 of his restaurants. He explained the situation with the Harrington development. It's a challenging project, Alexandra admitted after reviewing the plans. But we can make it work. We need to revise some of the more extravagant design elements. Lawrence is open to that, Dominic assured her. He just wants it done right on time and on budget. Within a week, Trevor received notice that Montgomery Design was being removed from the Harrington project. The financial penalty for breach of contract would push his already struggling firm to the brink of bankruptcy. That evening, Dominic received a furious call from Alexa. You did this, she screamed. You got Trevor fired from the Harrington project. I simply connected a struggling developer with a more competent architectural firm, Dominic replied coolly. Trevor's incompetence got him fired. This is war, Alexa hissed. You have no idea what you've started. No, Alexa. This is exactly what I've planned all along, Dominic replied before hanging up. What Alexa and Trevor didn't realize was that Dominic had been methodically documenting every step of their campaign against him. Every illegal action, every attempt at sabotage, every lie spread about his businesses, all carefully preserved by Ryder for what was to come. The game was entering its final phase, and Dominic held all the cards. Chapter 7. desperate measures. Trevor Montgomery stood in the empty offices of his architectural firm, surrounded by the ghosts of what had once been a thriving business. After losing the Harrington contract, other clients had followed suit, canceling projects or putting them on hold indefinitely. His staff of 20 had dwindled to 3, and even they were updating their resumes. "We need to face reality," Alexis said, perched on the edge of his desk. "The firm is finished in Boston." Trevor ran a hand through his disheveled hair. 15 years of work. Gone. Because of your ex-husband. Our only option is to relocate, Alexa continued. Start fresh somewhere else. New York, maybe, or Chicago. Running away won't solve our problems, Trevor argued. We need to hit back harder. Find his weakness. Alexa shook her head. We've tried that. He's 10 steps ahead of us every time. Everyone has a vulnerability, Trevor insisted. We just haven't found his yet. Later that evening, Trevor met with Brandon Wells, a former colleague who now worked for a major competitor. They sat in a dim corner of a bar far from the city center. I need something on Dominic Russo, Trevor said after several drinks. Anything that could damage him professionally. Brandon looked uncomfortable. Trev, you need to let this go. Russo's untouchable right now. Sanctum is the hottest restaurant in the Northeast. His other places are booked months in advance. There must be something, Trevor pressed. Health violations? Tax issues? Disgruntled employees? None. Brandon shook his head. He runs a tight ship. Staff loyalty is legendary. The guy pays for health insurance for part-timers, for Christ's sake. Trevor's desperation was palpable. What about his sister's wedding? It's next month at the Gardner Museum. Surely there's a way to disrupt that. Brandon set down his drink. Listen to yourself. You're talking about sabotaging a wedding to get back at her brother? This is madness. You don't understand what he's done to us, Trevor insisted. He's systematically destroyed everything we've built. No. Brandon stood, throwing cash on the table for his drinks. What I understand is that you had an affair with his wife, humiliated him publicly, and are now surprised he fought back better than you expected. Stop this before you cross a line you can't uncross. After Brandon left, Trevor continued drinking alone. His resentment festered with each glass of whiskey. By midnight, a dangerous plan had formed in his alcohol-soaked mind. The next day, Trevor told Alexa he had a potential client meeting in Providence. Instead, he drove to a seedy bar in South Boston known for its connections to local criminals. There, he met with Damon Kelly, a man who specialized in problems that needed solving. I need leverage on someone, Trevor explained vaguely. Information I can use against them. Damon studied him. Does someone have a name? Dominic Russo. Damon's eyebrows shot up. The restaurant guy? Man, you're playing with fire. Can you help or not? Trevor demanded. Depends on what you're willing to pay. And what lines you're willing to cross. Trevor slid an envelope across the table. 20,000. There's another 20 when you deliver something useful. Damon pocketed the envelope without counting. I'll see what I can find. No promises. 3 days later, Trevor's phone rang just after midnight. Meet me at the pier. 1 hour, Damon said, then hung up. The waterfront was deserted when Trevor arrived. Damon leaned against a railing, smoking. Well, Trevor asked. Your guy's clean, Damon replied. Legitimate businesses, pays his taxes, treats his workers right. Trevor's face fell. Nothing at all? I didn't say that. Damon flicked his cigarette into the harbor. Guy's got a routine. Leaves Sanctum every night around 2 a.m. Takes the same route home to his penthouse. Travels alone. Trevor frowned. What are you suggesting? You wanted leverage, Damon shrugged. Sometimes you gotta create your own. A mugging. Trevor clarified, lowering his voice. More like a conversation with some physical persuasion, Damon suggested. Nothing permanent. Just enough to send a message that he's not untouchable. Trevor hesitated, knowing he was crossing a moral threshold. When? Friday night, after closing. For the next 2 days, Trevor wrestled with his conscience. Was he really considering having Dominic assaulted? Had his hatred and desperation driven him this far? Friday evening arrived, and Trevor found himself parked near Sanctum, watching the restaurant's back entrance. His hand shook as he texted Damon. Still on for tonight? The reply came immediately. In position. Confirm when target exits. At 2:17 a.m., Dominic emerged from Sanctum's service entrance. He paused to lock up, then began walking toward the parking garage where he kept his car. Trevor's finger hovered over his phone, ready to send the confirmation text that would set the attack in motion. As Dominic walked past a darkened alley, Trevor could see shadows moving within it. Damon and his associates, waiting. At the last moment, Trevor threw his phone down. "I can't do this," he muttered to himself, starting his car. As he pulled away, he glanced in his rearview mirror to see Dominic safely entering the parking garage, unaware of how close he'd come to danger. When Trevor arrived home, Alexa was waiting up. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "It's almost 3 in the morning." Trevor collapsed onto the sofa, his face in his hands. Almost did something unforgivable. After he confessed everything, Alexa stared at him in horror. "Have you lost your mind? You could have gone to prison." "I didn't go through with it," Trevor defended weakly. "But you considered it." Alexa paced the room. "This has to stop, Trevor. We're destroying ourselves, trying to fight him." The next morning, Trevor received a text from Damon. "Job canceled. Keep the deposit as my fee for wasting my time." Trevor breathed a sigh of relief, believing he'd narrowly avoided crossing a line he could never uncross. What he didn't know was that Dominic had been aware of the plot all along. Ryder Blackwell had been monitoring Trevor's movements and communications for months. He'd photographed the meeting with Damon at the pier and recorded their conversation with a parabolic microphone. When Trevor had met Damon at the South Boston bar, one of Dominic's people had been tending bar, recording everything. Most importantly, Damon Kelly had received a visit from Vincent Torres the day after meeting Trevor. Vincent had made Damon a more lucrative counteroffer: continue the charade with Trevor, but report everything back to Dominic. Damon, recognizing which side offered better prospects for his continued health and freedom, had readily agreed. That evening, Dominic sat in his penthouse reviewing the evidence Ryder had compiled. Photos, audio recordings, text messages, a complete record of Trevor's criminal conspiracy. "What now?" Vincent asked, pouring them both a drink. "Now," Dominic said, accepting the glass, "we end this." Chapter 8. The Trap Springs. Sophia's wedding day dawned clear and perfect. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum's courtyard had been transformed into an enchanted garden for the ceremony. As the brother of the bride, Dominic had spared no expense, arranging for rare flowers to be flown in from around the world. In the bridal suite, Dominic adjusted his sister's veil. "You look beautiful, sophomore." Tears welled in her eyes. "I keep thinking about Mom, wishing she could see this." "She can," Dominic assured her, his usual steely demeanor softening. "And she'd be so proud of you." As guests began arriving, Dominic was surprised to see Gerald and Martha Palmer among them. Apparently, the social humiliation of missing the wedding of the season outweighed their animosity toward him. Notably absent were Alexa and Trevor. The ceremony was flawless. Sophia and Perry exchanged vows beneath a canopy of white orchids and jasmine. When they were pronounced husband and wife, Dominic felt a rare moment of pure happiness for his sister. At the reception, as champagne flowed and music played, Vincent appeared at Dominic's side. "Everything's ready," he murmured. "The meeting is set for tomorrow morning." Dominic nodded. Perfect timing. The next day, Dominic arrived at the Boston Police Department's downtown headquarters promptly at 9 a.m. He was shown to a conference room where Detective Elaine Rodriguez waited, along with an assistant district attorney. "Thank you for coming in, Mr. Russo," Detective Rodriguez began. "You said you had information regarding a criminal matter?" Dominic placed a thick folder on the table. Evidence of a conspiracy to commit assault, potential extortion, and corporate espionage. The detective raised an eyebrow. "Those are serious allegations, with serious evidence to back them up," Dominic replied, opening the folder. For the next hour, Dominic methodically presented the case against Trevor Montgomery. The security footage from Vettura showing the break-in. Phone records linking Trevor to Bianca. Audio recordings of Trevor's meetings with Damon Kelly, discussing the planned assault. Bank records showing the transfer of funds. The ADA whistled softly. "This is extremely thorough. May I ask how you obtained all this?" I hired a licensed private investigator when I began suspecting corporate espionage, Dominic explained. Everything was gathered legally. Mr. Blackwell is prepared to testify. After reviewing the evidence, Detective Rodriguez looked up. We have more than enough here for multiple felony charges. We'll need formal statements from you and your investigator. Of course, Dominic agreed. I want to be clear, I'm not seeking vengeance. I'm seeking justice and protection for my businesses and employees. That afternoon, Trevor Montgomery was arrested at his apartment. The charges included breaking and entering, conspiracy to commit assault, corporate espionage, and attempted extortion. His face appeared on the evening news, being led into the police station in handcuffs. Alexa called Dominic in a panic. "What have you done?" she demanded. "I haven't done anything," Dominic replied calmly. Trevor made his own choices. The police are simply enforcing the law. He never went through with the assault. Alexa protested. He changed his mind. Conspiracy is still a crime, even if the planned act doesn't occur, Dominic pointed out, as is breaking into my restaurant and stealing confidential business records. Actions have consequences, Alexa. It's time you both faced yours. Trevor's bail was set at $250,000. With his business failing and assets depleted, he couldn't afford it. He spent 3 nights in jail before Alexa was able to borrow money from her reluctant parents to bail him out. Upon release, Trevor found his legal troubles mounting. The district attorney was pressing for maximum charges. His attorney advised him that with the evidence Dominic had provided, conviction was almost certain. He was looking at 5 to 10 years in prison. Meanwhile, the story had exploded in Boston media. Prominent architect arrested in plot against restaurant mogul screamed the headlines. Every news outlet in the city carried the sordid details of Trevor's conspiracy, often accompanied by the security footage of him breaking into Vettura. Trevor and Alexa's social ostracism was now complete. The Palmers disowned their daughter, horrified at being connected to such a scandal. The last of Trevor's clients abandoned his firm. Their house went into foreclosure when they could no longer make the payments. 1 week after Trevor's arrest, his attorney contacted Milo Petrov. "My client is interested in discussing a potential resolution," he began cautiously. "Mr. Russo isn't interested in negotiations," Milo replied. Perhaps he'd reconsider if Mr. Montgomery were willing to leave Boston permanently, move his business and residence elsewhere, with a legally binding agreement never to return. Milo paused. "I'll present the offer to my client." That evening, Dominic considered the proposal over dinner with Vincent at Sanctum's private vault room. "It's essentially exile," Vincent observed. "They leave, never come back, you drop the charges." "It's not enough," Dominic decided. Trevor committed serious crimes. He should face the consequences. "So what's your counteroffer?" Dominic smiled coldly. "I want a public confession. Full admission of guilt for everything. The affair, the break-in, the assault conspiracy. Published in the Boston Globe." "They'll never agree to that," Vincent predicted. "They will when they realize the alternative is Trevor spending the next decade in prison," Dominic replied. "And one more condition. They forfeit all rights to practice architecture or interior design in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire." "You're effectively ending their careers," Vincent noted. "They tried to end mine," Dominic shrugged. "The difference is I'm succeeding." Chapter 9. The Last Laugh. The Boston Globe Sunday edition featured an unusual full-page notice in the front section. Headline: Public Apology and Confession. It contained Trevor Montgomery's comprehensive admission of wrongdoing. In painfully specific detail, Trevor confessed to his affair with Alexa while she was married to Dominic. He admitted to breaking into Vettura and stealing confidential business records. He acknowledged conspiring to have Dominic assaulted. Most humiliatingly, he confessed that his actions had been motivated by jealousy of Dominic's success and his own professional failures. The confession ended with an announcement that Trevor and Alexa would be relocating to the West Coast and would not return to New England. That same day, Trevor and Alexa loaded their remaining possessions, pitifully few compared to their former lifestyle, into a rented SUV and began the long drive to California. All their fine art, designer clothes, and luxury furniture had been sold to pay legal bills and debts. As news of the confession and departure spread, Dominic received dozens of messages from friends and business associates expressing amazement at the outcome. Many had suspected he would emerge victorious from the conflict, but few had anticipated such a complete and devastating triumph. 2 days later, Dominic hosted a private celebration at Sanctum. In attendance were Vincent, Sophia, and Perry, who had returned early from their honeymoon for the occasion. Ryder Blackwell, Milo Petrov, and a few other trusted associates who had helped execute his long-term strategy. A toast, Dominic raised his glass, to justice served cold. "I still can't believe they agreed to your terms," Sophia marveled. "Especially the public confession." "They had no choice," Milo explained. The evidence against Trevor was overwhelming. With his resources depleted, he was facing a public defender and years in prison. What they never understood, Dominic added, was that this was never about money or even revenge. It was about truth. They lived a lie, pretending to be something they weren't, building a relationship on deception, presenting themselves as victims when they were the perpetrators. "And now everyone knows exactly who they are," Vincent concluded. Later that evening, as the gathering wound down, Sophia followed Dominic on his Sanctum's rooftop terrace. The Boston skyline glittered around them. "Are you satisfied now?" she asked quietly. "Is it finally over?" Dominic considered the question. "Yes. What they did to you is terrible," Sophia acknowledged. "But the man I've seen these past months, so focused on destroying them, that's not the brother I know." "It was never about destruction," Dominic corrected her. "It was about justice. They needed to face consequences for their actions. And now they have." Sophia placed a hand on his arm. "So maybe it's time to let go of the anger. Find happiness again." Dominic gazed out at the city, his city in many ways. His restaurants dotted the landscape below, each one a testament to his vision and determination. "You know," he said finally, "the most important lesson I learned from all this was about value. Not the value of money or success, but the value of truth and loyalty." Sophia nodded. "And family." "And family," he agreed, squeezing her hand. "Some things, once broken, can't be repaired, but others become stronger at the broken places." 6 months later, Dominic stood in the newly renovated space that would become his 8th restaurant. The concept was different from his other establishments, a return to his culinary roots with a focus on the rustic Italian cooking he'd learned from his mother. He had named it Verita, Italian for truth. As workers installed fixtures and finishes around him, Dominic received a text from Vincent. "Just saw the listings. A&T's house in Santa Monica in foreclosure. His firm bankrupt. She's waiting tables." Dominic read the message, then deleted it without responding. Their fate no longer interested him. They had become irrelevant to his story. That evening, as he reviewed plans for Verita's grand opening, Dominic reflected on how completely his prediction had come true. The engagement party confrontation had indeed been just the appetizer in a much longer meal of consequences for those who had wronged him. Now, with Alexa and Trevor reduced to cautionary tales, with his business empire stronger than ever, with his sister happily married, Dominic had indeed had the last laugh. But the sweetest victory, he realized, wasn't in their downfall. It was in his own resilience, the ability to transform betrayal into strength, obstacles into opportunities, enemies into stepping stones. In the end, living well truly was the best revenge. And Dominic Russo was living very well indeed. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.